All right, so let's keep talking about food. While you're doing these lectures, I would suggest have something to eat and think about what you're eating. Actually look at the food, look at the label if it came out of a package, and look at the food groups. It's going to list out there carbohydrates, fats, proteins, etc. So we've talked about carbohydrates and how their primary function is to give us energy. That is why we eat carbohydrates. We want that energy, whether it's quick energy from a monosaccharide, a little bit more of a trickling energy from a disaccharide, or the long-term energy all day long from the polysaccharides. Carbs are going to give us energy. When we get into the fats, or what we can call the lipids, the oils, phospholipids, and waxes, we eat these for a different reason. We have to have fats in our diet. So do not try to eliminate fat from your diet. It's not healthy. You need a certain amount of fat. Too much, obviously, unhealthy. Not enough, bad as well. Moderation and certain types of fats are the key. Okay, so all lipids have this hydrocarbon chain backbone. And this hydrocarbon chain backbone makes them what we call hydrophobic. So hydrophobic means you don't like water. You fear water. You push it away. You repel water. That is the nature of lipids. They all push water away because they don't like it. Hydrophobic. So that's definitely a term. I want you guys remember that term. Let me turn it to red and underline it and bold it. Hydrophobic means fear of water. Now when we look at lipids, lipids come in all sorts of shapes, varieties, forms, fashions, etc. Alright, so let's look at functions of lipids first. The functions of lipids, the main function, primary function of a lipid is to be able to build a cell membrane. We'll talk about this more in a little bit. Lipids also act as insulation, shock absorber. They protect our body. This is the primary function for all of these. It also can provide us with energy. On average, 1 gram of lipid equals 9 calories of energy. So if you were to eat that 625 grams of carbohydrates, say a bowl of carbohydrates, that's the energy you need for the entire day, that bowl. If you were to switch the bowl out and put lipids in there, you would need to cut the bowl in half and only have half the amount, because of the calorie return. So you need about 260 grams of lipids, if that's all you ate, to give you the energy for the entire day. They give us over twice the return of calories compared to carbohydrates. So the concern is minimizing the amount of lipid. Don't eliminate. Do not get rid of them all, but limiting, and then the correct types. Now, generally, we talk about lipids and we group them into categories called good fats, bad fats, or saturated versus unsaturated. Good fats are what we call unsaturated. Bad fats are what we call the saturated. Okay? The bad fats tend to be the ones that lead to health problems. They clog the arteries, the body stores them, it retains them, it increases health issues. Good fats, the body can use, the body then gets rid of, the body doesn't hold on to them as easily, and they're healthier for us. Big difference. So if you're cooking, and instead of using that butter and that lard or that Crisco, can you find alternatives? Can you switch it out with maybe an oil, maybe some different type of unsaturated fat that'll keep us healthier? Typically, not always, but generally, the unsaturated fats are going to be plant-based. And these are usually liquid at room temperature. That's an easy way to look at a fat and say, oh, is that saturated or unsaturated? So room temperature liquid. Think about oils. Saturated fats tend to be animal-based, and they tend to be solid at room temperature. Okay, so they solidify. Think about butter. Think about Crisco. Think about grease. Those are saturated fats. Right? So the challenge is when we eat fats, your body's going to use it, make a cell membrane, insulation, shock absorber, etc., turn some into energy if we don't have the carbs, and then it's going to say, hey, if I got extra, I think I'm going to store it. I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to pack it together. I'm going to go through this condensation process, shove these fatty acids together, attach a glycerol, and now I'm going to store it in the form called triglycerides. So this is going to be stored in your body. You're going to retain this. The idea is, later on, maybe your body grabs it and pulls it out, breaks it down, and uses it. But if we, all of us included, generally in the American diet, we consume far more calories than are necessary every day. And we don't take out our reserves of energy, those triglycerides. We don't pull them out and break them down. We tend to just keep storing it and storing it and storing it, which leads to weight gain, health problems, etc. But the interesting thing, if you look at the difference between unsaturated and saturated, hydrocarbon, so hydrogen-carbon chains, you look at that. So there's hydrogens, carbons, big, gigantic, long chain here. Same thing down here, hydrogen, carbon, etc. The main difference right here, double bonded carbons. In the unsaturated fats, there are double bonded carbons. We do not see that down here anywhere on the saturated. So what this means, what this sets up, is when these enter our body, our cell looks at it, our body looks at this and says, okay, what do I do with this? The unsaturated are not recognized. So these fats are more likely to be eliminated and excreted from the body. Key thing to remember, if you can't use it, your body gets rid of it. Saturated are recognizable. These are the ones that are more likely to be stored and held onto and kept, leading to all long-term health problems. All right, so now hopefully people move towards this healthier diet of unsaturated fats versus saturated and minimizing the amount of fat in the diet. Not eliminating it, but just reducing it. We talked about fake sugar. Well, there's a fake fat. It's known as olestra. Olestra is a sucrose molecule with 6 fatty acids attached to it, or 6 to 8. So what chemists have done is created this fake fat, artificial fat. And if you look at Tostitos and Lay's and Doritos, etc., all the major brands out there have a version of olestra chips. They're called Wow chips, fat-free. So they take the potato, which is a carbohydrate, slice it up, season it, throw it in a deep fryer full of fat, full of this fake fat called olestra, and that creates the chip. Now when you eat it, your body doesn't know what to do with olestra. It says, I don't know what this is. It's something I've never seen before. It's not natural. So we're not going to digest it. We're not going to break it down. We're not going to store it. We're not going to use it. We're just going to excrete it. We're going to get rid of it because it's not a product that our body wants or can use. So what will happen is it gets eliminated. The concern, and this label came right off of a bag of Doritos. I want you guys to look at any olestra-based food product. This warning label has to be there because consumption of olestra may cause abdominal cramping, loose stools, it inhibits the absorption of certain vitamins, etc. It can lead to some health issues because your body doesn't know what to do with it. It just wants to get rid of it and eliminate it as quickly as possible. So be careful if you guys are eating anything that's considered fat-free and, ooh, I'm going to be healthy and get these fat-free chips. Okay? So be cautious. Okay, another function of lipids, and this is probably the most important one. So I'm going to stick a little star here so you guys know. All right, really, let's make sure we remember this one. This is an important function. Lipids are essential to create these structures called phospholipids. Phospholipids make up the cell membrane of all living organisms. All right, you have to have lipids for this. It's a phosphate head up here, and then a fatty acid or lipid tail. Now the lipid tail, hydrophobic, doesn't like water. The lipid head, though, is hydrophilic, and it likes water. So it's an interesting scenario. We got this conflicting structure. I like water up here. I don't like water down here. But this is the basic structural makeup of all cell membranes. So when we stack them together and you put billions and billions of lipids, phospholipids together, they form a thing called a bilayer. So you get all these lipids grouped together, and you have the heads all up here facing the water that's outside of the cell, and you have a bunch of heads down here facing the water that's inside the cell. Because remember, those heads, they like water. So give them a little smiley. Each head likes water. So they're all facing the water. The tails, though, they don't like water. They're hydrophobic. So as long as the tails are inside the cell membrane, in here, in the interior cell membrane, the tails are going to be happy because they're away from the water. The heads are happy because they're near the water. So again, that makes up the basic cell membrane of all living organisms. I don't care if you're bacteria or if you're a clownfish or if you're a oak tree or if you're a bread mold. There's your cell membrane, phospholipids. So when we eat to make new cells to repair your body, you better get those lipids in there because they're an essential part of that cell membrane. The last group of lipids, fats that we want to talk a bit about, are the waxes. So back to our hydrocarbon chain. The hydrocarbon chain repels water. That's the whole idea behind these lipids. They repel water. So you got this fatty acid chain here. All that with this little head on it over here. And that's what helps repel water. Hydrophobic. So when we look at water and we look at wax, so if you guys wax your vehicle, it repels the water. Go in your ear, inside your ear. There it is, a little bit of wax inside the ear canal. That helps prevent water from going down into your ear and causing ear infections and problems. It's there to protect us. Leaves of plants. These leaves all have a little bit of a waxy layer on them up there, and that helps prevent water from leaving or exiting the leaf. It's not there to prevent it from coming in because it doesn't go in the leaf. It's there to prevent it from evaporation, trying to minimize water loss. So something I want you guys to do, go to the grocery store and look for apples or cucumbers or a lot of the fruits and vegetables, and especially apples are a great example. And if you get an apple and it's in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, even into August, take a look at it. Because when those apples were picked, they were sprayed with wax, and that wax seals in the moisture. So there's a very thin film of wax on the surface of your apples. Scratch it and see if you guys can find that waxy layer. But wax is just another type of lipid that's going to repel water because it's got the hydrocarbon chain. So again, remember the key functions of lipids and what they do for us.